Yeah, you ready?
I'm ready.
Hey, it's Griff and Sarah, and we're at Malta Ridge Cemetery.
In Malta, New York.
Are you sure?
I am. Oh.
I'm Batman. There we go, look at that.
Wow.
Spotted.
How was the new selfie stick?
All right, new selfie stick, guys. Anyways, we're heading down to see George Speck, George Crum. His actual name was Speck. Anyways, he's supposedly the guy that invented the potato chip right here in Saratoga, New York. He and his sister, well, first he worked over at Moon's Lake House in 1853. And that's what the story about. Cornelius Vanderbilt keeps sending back his potatoes because they weren't crispy. And so, sort of, in spite, George sliced them real thin, put them in some oil, and the birth of the modern potato chip eventually turned into Saratoga chips, I think. Anyways, they eventually opened up a place, him and his sister, on Route 63, Malta, I think, or maybe it's Boston spot, and it was called Crum's Place. It was Roadhouse, and every table would have a little bowl of potato chips there when he came in. He was very strict about who got in, how you got in. You waited in line like everybody else. Didn't matter if your name was Vanderbilt. And apparently Cornelius Vanderbilt visited Roadhouse many times. There it goes. All right, guys, we're at the Malta Ridge Cemetery in Malta, or maybe Boston Spa.
Malta, New York.
Malta? All right. Anyways, we're going to go see George Speck's grave. And, well, we had a little trouble finding him. So.
No, we found him.
We did find him. It isn't the stone I expected. It's a little a little older, I guess, 1914 being the date. It kind of fits the bill. All right, we're gonna go check it out. We're gonna head over to the Roadhouse now. George Speck, 1860, was able to open up his own place. Now, you gotta keep in mind this guy was half Mohawk and half African American. So, opening up a place of your own around these parts is, a big feat. But he was such a good chef, and that's what he was known for down at Moon's Lake House. You can go take a look at that as well, where it used to be. And
several times.
Several times. We're gonna go over to the Roadhouse. He kept high prices here because the food was definitely worth it, and people like Cornelius Vanderbilt frequented the place when they were up in the air. Okay, here's George Speck. Anyways, it's kind of a traditional turn of the century stone. It's made out of marble now, so it's starting to go away as the way of the marble. All right, this is the site where the Roadhouse was, and this is George Crum, or George Speck, and it's not here anymore. It's somebody's property. But that's the guy, the inventor of the potato chip. The inscription here.
He was a veteran.
Was he a veteran?
Must have been of the Civil War in 1861 to 1865.
How about that? Civil War veteran, too. All right, guys, we're coming up on where Moon's Lake House used to be. It's private residence now. And that would be the location here at the bottom of the lake. A little ridge here. All right, guys, so we just passed Moon's Lake House. And it was built in 1853, and that's when George started working there. He was already known as a chef, and he did mostly wild stuff, the venison and duck and things like that. Anyways, he got hired there, and that's where the whole Vanderbilt story about the potato chip and him slicing it up thin, and it being a big hit. But the history of Moon's Lake House has got its own. It was built in 1853, and then it burned down in 1893. It was rebuilt and sold in 1907, which burned down again, and then in 1908 they rebuilt it. And then it burned again in 1926. After that, they rebuilt it, and in the 30s, it was purchased by a guy named Doc Ferrone, who was a sort of underworld character around these parts, you know, legs diamond kind of stuff, you know what I mean? And then eventually it was sold 1981, and then it burned for the last time in 1983. Now, I think there was a guy somewhere around here that tried to make another Moons, but I don't think it was in that location.
What?
It was in that location? Okay.
I remember seeing it.
So it may have had another life. We just have to look into that. So George got the nickname Crum. Like, he kind of kept the nickname. It wasn't really intended that way when Vanderbilt couldn't remember his name. And he kept calling him Crum instead of Speck. And basically Crum said, Crum is bigger than a speck, so he stuck with it, and that's why he named his roadhouse that. Roadhouse he owned with his sister Kate, and she was referred to as Aunt Kate. She's actually buried over in Green Ridge Cemetery under the name of Catherine Atkins. Supposedly died at 102 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. We don't really know when she was born. And she probably didn't either, as many people in that time period. But that's where he got the nickname. All right, so Aunt Kate was probably the real inventor of the potato chip, according to her grandson. He really pushed for it. But what had happened was, she said it happened completely by accident. And she was slicing up a potato, and a really thin slice went into the oil. She picked it out with a fork. And George ate it and thought it was good, so it went on the menu. And that's pretty much how she recollects it became the potato chip. So technically, she might be the true inventor of the potato chip. Of course, you can look back in old cookbooks in the 19th century, and there were a bunch of recipes for fried potatoes, but nothing that actually mentioned cutting them that thin.
Oh, do you know why?
Why is that?
Because it was the French held the World's Fair about that same time. And French fries were very fashionable for people like Vanderbilt, people that would have gone to the World's Fair.
Okay. So it's really kind of just a version of the French fry. Remember, guys, like and subscribe. Take a few snaps.